Pickled red onions. They go with practically anything. You can find them on tacos, hamburgers, or even breakfast. But how do you make restaurant quality pickled red onions? In today's video, I'm going to show you two different recipes. Let's dive in.
All right, so today we're going to be talking about red onions, and in particular, how to make pickled red onions. I'm going to show you guys two different methods. They're both equally really delicious, and I tend to crave one over the other a little bit more, but they're both going to be amazing on whatever it is that you want to put it on. You can put this on tacos, hamburgers, fish. I mean, literally, pickled onions are good for almost anything. So, real quick, I just want to talk about red onions. Red onions are probably my favorite onions because of their taste and how versatile they are. They're also incredibly colorful. So if you're making something like ceviche, or if you're making fish tacos, Baja tacos, it adds a bit of color to your meal. But red onions are typically known for being a little stronger than other onions. So you're definitely gonna get that onion flavor, onion taste, onion punch with red onions. Now everyone's different, but I enjoy red onions raw. I like them raw with my hamburgers, but I also love them caramelized. Caramelized on the barbecue grill, again, on a hamburger is absolutely delicious, or sauteed in a pan. But pickled red onions, again, are kind of my guilty pleasure. So let's dive into it. I'm gonna show you guys two different ways. Now, the first way is probably the most typical way, and you've probably seen this recipe, I don't know, floating around YouTube, or your favorite local hamburger joint probably makes this already. This recipe is kind of found more frequently in like fast food settings. So if you're gonna have like a hamburger at your favorite fast food restaurant, you're probably gonna find this recipe, these pickled red onions, a little bit more. First thing you're gonna do is chop up your red onions. You're gonna wanna chop up both ends, and then you're gonna finely dice these red onions. You can use a mandolin if you want, and a mandolin's gonna give you really precise, evenly sliced onions, but I've found that a sharp knife will do pretty much the same thing, and it's gonna give you a little bit more of different profiles, different textures. I guess with every bite, you're gonna get different sizes, which gives you a little bit more of a home style feel and taste to the pickled red onions. Okay, now once you have everything sliced, now we're gonna start making the brine. We're gonna need about a half cup of apple cider vinegar to 1 cup of water. We're gonna put it all in this cup here and then add in some peppercorns. And that's gonna be our brine.
This is a very simple brine. We're basically going to go 1 part of vinegar to 2 parts water. So half cup of vinegar to 1 full cup of water. And it's very, very important that you properly salt both brines. I know this looks like a lot of salt, but it's not. Reference my video, A Guide to Salt. If you can master salt, you can master anything. The most controversial thing though, we're going to be adding in some sugar. I know. The next brine won't have any sugar, but this one calls for sugar. Make sure you mix it really, really well. And then I like to add in a whole bunch of black peppercorns. And you basically have your first brine.
So we have our brine ready. We added in some black peppercorns, about a tablespoon of salt, and a pinch of sugar, which is very controversial. Once you got all that, it's time to pour some boiling water, hot water, in this glass that I have the onions in, and that's actually gonna start the blanching process. So once you let your onions kind of sit for a minute, minute and a half or so, and the blanching process is complete, we are going to pour the water out. And then we are gonna take these onions and shove them in whatever jar you wanna use, a mason jar, and then start the brining process.
A key thing to remember here is you don't want to overpack your onions. You want to allow the ingredients some room to do their thing. Carefully pour in your brine, put the lid back on, and now it's time to play the waiting game. This recipe is incredibly popular at hamburger and hot dog joints.
Okay, now the second method is going to be a little bit different. You're still going to slice up some onions. I mean, that's the core, right? We're not going to be using sugar anymore. We're going to get rid of the sugar. We're still going to need some black peppers, except this time we're going to be adding in some habanero. I love pickled red onions with habanero. This recipe is traditionally a little bit more authentic, and you're gonna find it in like your favorite taco joint, right? So if you're gonna go get some authentic tacos, asada tacos, this is the pickled onions, the pickled red onions that you're gonna find at those restaurants. Absolutely delicious. We're still gonna need some acid for our brine, except this time instead of distilled apple cider or vinegar, we're gonna be using some limes. This is gonna act as our acid.
Let's start off by deveining and de-seeding the habanero to get some of that edge off, and then we're going to slice them up. Next, grab your limes, cut them in half, and then run them through the lime press so we can get all of that wonderful lime juice. Same thing as before, don't be stingy with the salt. Roughly about a tablespoon of salt. I'm using kosher salt, but always season to taste at the end. This is optional, but I do love my peppercorns, so I'm going to be adding a couple of black peppercorns.
Now the same thing as before, we are going to blanch the onions. This time we are not going to use boiling water. We're actually going to use water that's really, really hot, but not boiling. So if the water out of your sink, for example, your kitchen sink, doesn't really come out necessarily very hot, boil some water, but then just wait until you start seeing some steam, and that should be hot enough. Now the big difference is when we pour this, we're going to let this sit for about 20 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes. And that's really going to allow it to soften and get all of that raw red onion taste out. But it's also going to allow for that deep, rich color, which is basically the secret to restaurant-style red pickled onions.
Same thing as before, pack in your onions, but don't overpack them. You need some room for the ingredients to do their work. Now, we're going to go ahead and add in our brine. This recipe is going to be a lot different than the previous recipe. The habanero is going to give a kick, but it's actually going to be a sweet kick. And the lime and salt are working their magic to give you this wonderful zest.
Okay, now you want to completely let these cool before putting them in the fridge for at least 24 hours, and this is what they look like.
Two slightly different recipes, both equally delicious and amazing in their own right, but I really want you to concentrate on the color here. If you look, the one that was done with vinegar, because it was only blanched for about a minute in boiling water, has a different color than the vibrant one that was blanched in warm, hottish water for a lot longer. The taste profiles, completely different, so you just gotta try these recipes out for yourself.
All right, so that's basically it, guys. I showed you two different methods. The hamburger style, a little bit different with some sugar, that's a controversial method, and then traditional Mexican style, something that you would find at a taco restaurant. Both are restaurant qualities, and I like both of them. If I had to pick between one or the other, I mean, I guess it really depends on the day and what I'm eating, but I'm a little partial to the lemon method. Now, these are good in your fridge for about 4 weeks, give or take, before they start kind of degrading and losing quality, but I don't think they're gonna last that long. So enjoy these. You can put them on practically anything. I'm super addicted to them, and I should really cut back. That's it for me, guys. I hope you found this video informative, and I will catch you on the next one.